Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm a computer science major who works at a firm that works with emerging technologies and has operations in a lot of countries. After my training period had been completed, I got assigned to a project dealing with AI in India. This got me really apprehensive, since I grew up watching a lot of films that had a big impact on me. And these films showed AI in a bad light. For example, the Terminator films, where machines take over humans, and so many others that showed AI as a threat to human society and human mental peace. Completely basing my ideas of the world on films was not the right approach, so I really wanted to get some guidance on how the situation was in India, and if there would be more of a negative or a positive impact of AI on the country as a whole and its people. I connected with my friend Khyati, who I heard was living in India for the past 3 years, about this. And luckily, she was in town this weekend, so I decided to get coffee with her and talk to her about this. Before I met Khyati, I read a lot of articles about AI in India to understand more about the topic. One thing that really struck me was the concept of culturally sensitive AI and how technology would be changed for the country in turn to change the country. I met Khyati at a cool coffee shop near ASU and learned that she was working with an NGO in India. And it was great to catch up with her. I told her about my project and why I wanted to meet her and what had been bothering me. She said she would connect me with people she met in India. She said she'd formed connections with people from various industries there and was ready to help by connecting me with them so I can get a better understanding of what it is like to be in India and be in these industries and how their interactions with AI are. She then asked me if there were people in specific industries I wanted to talk to. I told her that there was nothing specific, but I mainly wanted to talk to people from various backgrounds and age groups and from different parts of India, as this would give me a better idea and a better understanding of the problem at hand. Kathy was nice enough to help me set up the interview process by actually doing one of the interviews for me while I watched and learned.
Sandy called me up the other day and asked if I was available to help on a project he was working on for work. It was lucky that I was actually back in town for this weekend and we were able to meet up. Sandy told me his project was about AI in India and specifically how Indian people viewed AI and how they interacted with it. After spending 3 years in India working for an NGO focused on bringing technology, food, and water to remote villages, I was happy to help connect Sandy with various people in the industry who I had gotten to meet through my endeavors. He asked to be connected to health experts, government officials, and others that might have a unique perspective of AI in India. It was great meeting Sandy after so long, and I hope I can help him with this project. Hopefully, we can talk later and touch base on what information he finds out.
India is a different country. There's 1 billion people there, and we don't know that much about what Indian people feel about AI technology. Like recently, there was a transportation minister who said he wouldn't even allow automated driving in India because like a lot of drivers will lose their jobs and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, how are we going to market to India AI technologies? How are we going to develop India with AI? So that's why we're doing this research. So like overall, like first question I want to ask is like, what is your guys' impression of AI? Like artificial intelligence, like overall, what is your thing about it?
Okay, before I start answering any of your questions, I'd like to make it very clear that whatever I'm going to be answering, like when it comes to my perception about what people over here think about AI, that's what you want to know in the very first
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so my responses will be based on what I think and what I have studied, and based on my own research that I've been undertaking in this field. Okay,
yeah,
so coming to the point, first of all, AI is still kind of new over here. They're still comprehending on how it gets, wrapped around their head and everything. So currently, if I speak for the masses, which is the maximum amount of the population, it's 1.3 billion. So out of 1.3 billion, hardly 30 lakh or 3 3 crore people or something like that who are educated and in the cities, or in the IT sector, they know exactly what AI is and what its application is right now in, say Uber is using AI to, triangulate people, or, triangulate the times in which people travel to and fro where they usually book a Uber. So there are very minute places where it's been applied, especially by MNCs. So it's very, very limited when it comes to the understanding about how AI is going to be used. And yeah, so that was it. So very less people know. I mean, I can't put a number exactly, but
Yeah.
let's say the demographics don't look that good. People who are inside, IT sector, first of all. Second, people who are learning, engineers and things like that, those people. And third is the educated users of some augmented reality or AI automated systems or stuff like that in IT or manufacturing or automobile sector.
Okay.
If you think the application of it in India, the country which has a population, huge population, I think the first users of the AI would be always the metro cities people. I mean, it won't be here in village areas or tier 3, tier 4 cities or the towns here. So the how people and the companies are going to apply AI in India and make AI for India. So that's the challenge for many countries who's looking to enter India and really make use of AI in the country. So yeah, that's how I think.
Okay, so like in the big cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, how have you guys seen AI technology used, or is it even used that much?
If you ask me, three cities, I think that would be Mumbai, Bangalore, and Delhi. These three cities have a good, the kind of skilled people they have, the technology. Right now, where they are, I think these are the three cities in which companies can enter first and try out the things. What do you
Okay.
say, Chin?
Yeah, I'd like to build on what you just said. What are the applications and which cities will be most effective when it comes to using AI, or upgrading or integrating AI systems to the existing platforms? Now there are two phases in which we can look at it. One is implementing it in the already accustomed user base that is in the cities, Karan has already mentioned. Second is using it along with certain databases and certain processes that are already being used worldwide, specifically in India. There is AI that can be upgraded in agriculture, which is like 70% of the entire Indian market, and it has been done as well these days. There's also the energy sector, solar energy, and all these different schemes that the government of India has been coming through, has been focusing a lot on the energy aspect of it as well. And because India is one of the leading contributors in the Paris Agreement, which talks about solar energy, and because we are, the head member of ISA, International Solar Association, so these things are highly dependent on AI, to be honest with you, because the sheer data that all these things will be connecting in order to not just collect the data but also make sense of it, help it with the decision making of the people on ground for implementation, and also getting the results on how well it's been implemented and how effective it is being for the people who are using it, or the end user or the consumer, I must say. So it's not just the corporate, metropolitan cities or metro cities, but entirety of India. But it depends on which sector and how fast are you using it.
So like the reason I was asking is I interviewed like other people, and a lot of them said like because India has like a lot of reliance on labor class, like even like middle class families or lower middle class, and they'll have like a servant or a driver or something in the home. So do you think that people will be willing to take away their positions and replace it with some type of Internet of Things technology, or like automated driving, or yes, so like do you think people would be willing to do that, or they will stick with like the manpower, woman power?
That's a very interesting question that the Western world has always had with India, to be very
Yeah.
honest with you. When it comes to the green revolution, when it came to the white revolution, okay, when it comes to the farmer laws that are going around these days, all these things make sense. The people, the sheer number that we possess, is our power, and by implementing certain things that, like in the Scandinavian and the Balkan countries, mostly even a restaurant is automated. You can use just you give your plate, it washes it and it puts it back on the rack for the people to use. Now because there's a labor problem over there, they have to innovate and bring these things into their usage to help their GDP and to help their economics. Whereas AI should be not replacing people, but it should be helping people who are already in that job. Think about a simple farmer who, at the time of harvest, like say he's harvesting wheat. So there are a lot of processes involved in husking of the wheat, drying of it, taking out the grain, drying the grain, polishing it, packing it, and sending it. So if even a small part of it can be can be used to improve his efficiency, improve his overall effectiveness, that will be better rather than, just replacing that person altogether and implementing machineries like it happens in Russia and USA, where there is the per hectare farming is huge compared to the the population over there.
Yeah. So, building upon that, so if someone were to create like AI technology specifically, like, culturally sensitive to India, what other advice like would you give them? Like the developers, anything like what should they like take into consideration and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the same way a Texan is different from a New Yorker, right? The same way a Maharashtrian is different from a Haryanvi. A Mumbaikar is different from a Punekar. So, to be honest with you, the entire demographic changes every 50 kilometer.
Yeah, yes.
Every 30 miles, you will be, looking at a new culture altogether. Every city has its own culture. Every city has its own vibe and the way things are done.
Changes, languages changes.
Languages change. There are what 2,200 official languages that are recognized, and probably times that 8 times that different variations in the same kind of language based on the demographic that you are. So, like I said, yes, you need to come and actually get to know the people over here. More specifically, understand the way they live, the way they live their life. What does a normal person do? Identify your customer, how you go about it. Where do you think AI can actually make a difference? And then you introduce it in his life or in her or whatever it is, slowly, step by step, just a small part of it.
Yeah. So AI startup industry. Do you know if it has any support? I saw some interviews by other people like online, and they said the Indian government has allocated money for AI, but there's not that much support for it. What are your guys' thoughts?
A lot of different schemes that are actually taken off in the last 2 to 3 years. There are a lot of different schemes, a lot of different actually government aided programs that give startups and all these. Chunauti was the latest one of them, which was by the Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics. So it was giving 25 lakhs of seed funding to startups that can use AI and other augmented devices to help with diagnosis, cure, or care for COVID infected patients, or health facilities and things like that in that specific domain. There's another opening of the defense sector that has happened in the last 3 months. So ISRO is taking the baton of going ahead and you know collaborating with private sector AI companies and other things for space technologies. Again, DRDO has opened up as well through a liaison called I don't know exactly what it is, but yes, we are able to complement and go ahead and help with the defense establishments and focus on the Atmanirbhar for Atmanirbhar thing that is going on. Yeah, so the scheme and the vision that is going on these days.
I won't take up too much of your time, but before I go, so any other advice for me? What other industry or not industries, like other topics to look into, stuff like that? Any resources, anything?
I have one thing. If the way you just took the interview right now with us, I'll tell you that try the different age groups as well. Try to talk with the people who are uh, 40s to 50s, and also the even older. And even if we find some younger people, talk with them. You'll get
Yeah.
much more insights and would be really productive.
Get the other old group because obviously younger generation might be more adaptable, might be more open to change than the older generations. Maybe I don't know. We can find out. So if you have anyone,
And go pan India actually. I mean, we just you'll understand the different perspectives because each and every area has a different history and has grown and manifested in a different way, right? So if you talk to a person from Rajasthan, he'll be completely different from person you talk in Kerala,
Yeah.
right? So if you can get somebody to go ahead and just diversify your sample size.
That's the best part about India, I mean, the demographic is so huge that you get to talk with so many different people from different regions at the different age and different cultures. I mean, that's amazing.
yeah,
And obviously, like the politics that I told you, there are different ways in which these things are implemented as well. Every state government has a different program to, facilitate these kind of things for their own people. And there are different national level areas. So the bicameralism in the Indian legislature gives you these opportunities. Ki there are a lot of different parallel, governments running at the same time, which are focusing on improvement of these things. So Gujarat is manifesting in a different way compared to UP, but they all come under one umbrella, that is India. So looking at the state level as well is very important. National level, state level, district level. Then you come down to the corporate side of it, MNCs, MSNMEs, and small medium size startups. So if you look at it from the larger perspective to the smaller one, I think it should be.
okay. I'll definitely do that.
Khyati's interview with Karan and Chinma had given me an idea of what kind of questions I wished to ask the people that Khyati had connected me with. Khyati met me before going to India and she said she would be back in a few months and would love to catch up again and see if there was any progress. I thanked her for her help and wished her a safe journey. Today with us we have Mr. Hari Krishna Chanduru, who's an uncle of mine who runs a legacy automobile industry in Hyderabad, Telangana. They primarily make products in the replacement market for two-wheelers and three-wheelers in India. Their main product is wiring harnesses. So I'll let him continue on what they do in the industry.
Yeah, thank you, Sandilya. We basically manufacture a component called wiring harness, which occupies a major share in our production. This wiring harness is nothing but an assembled electrical bunch of cables and connectors, which are streamlined and assembled. Their main work is to connect different electrical and electronic devices built into the vehicle. They act as a bridge of supplying power to these components, like for example, lighting up the headlamp whenever required, like lighting up the tail lamp when the brake is pressed, like the maintaining the engine timing, and warning signals given from speed limiters, etc. We basically manufacture these components for two and three wheelers, uh, and have a very good brand image in South India.
We're trying to go to people who have experience in multiple different industries and get their perspective on AI. So, in your own words, what would you describe artificial intelligence as?
According to me, artificial intelligence is a tool which helps in maximizing uh, the product and successfully giving the best result that is assigned to that product.
Yeah. No, that's actually really a cool perspective since you come from the manufacturing background of things. And what do you feel about it? Do you feel more positively inclined towards it or more negative towards it?
Yeah, definitely positively inclined, because for us, this artificial intelligence helps us in a number of ways, like starting from the basic part where we design the component, like putting that component into the process of production, maintaining the quality norms required for that component, maintaining the inventory. At every point, for us, artificial intelligence plays an important role.
No, that's true. That's true. So, based on your experiences in the automobile industry, what are your opinions on the future of automated, like self-driving cars in India?
Self-driving cars in India have a good scope in the future, not right now, because of the geographical situation that account for it, like the traffic scenarios that are associated in major cities, where people do not have proper sense of traffic. So, for this, I believe what artificial intelligence and automation required in other parts of the country, almost um, almost comparatively a much more insight is required to manufacture these cars. Definitely the scope is there for those, but I believe right now getting into the practical situation associated with the mentality of the people and the uh, situation, it might not be immediately a good option.
No, that's true. That's true. And that's actually a cool point that you raised. And because one of the topics we're trying to address is culturally like more suited AI. And that's a really cool thing that you bring up that they should be more insight learned about India before they actually launch self-driving cars in India. So, do you think people will be accepting of these cars because that's a huge part of the entire process? And do you think the government's going to support the changes in the infrastructure, roads, and other stuff
Yeah,
to enable the use of self-driving features?
yeah. Definitely people, a certain segment of people will be accepting these, because India is basically uh, a country where lot of people are associated, where the lot of people have their livelihood coming from the automobile industry. Like for example, in a city like Hyderabad, almost 20 to 25% vehicles are taxis. So these self-driven cars might dent their income uh,
Yes,
for
yes.
people who are dependent on these on these things.
For an income. Yeah, no, that leads to the next question that I had. So you're saying it's going to be a very mixed thing because it's a very diverse country that there's going to be people from all sides of like all sides of opinion. So like many politicians have actually voiced out their opinion that they actually do not support self-driving cars in India because of the potential loss of jobs for drivers, which is a really valid concern. What are your views on this? Because you'd actually mentioned that earlier too. And so do you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
this is a potential downside towards AI in the automobile industry in India?
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Because as I have said, a lot of family groups have their source of income uh, from the field. Like they are a number of people are associated as drivers in our country, because that is the source of livelihood for them. Definitely, their share of income will not be there for them to proceed with their livelihood.
That's true. That's true. So, in your own personal opinion, what do you feel about AI technology being used in India so far and its growth in the recent years?
Uh, Automobile industry has prospered very much with this artificial intelligence, but definitely there is a large scope of some more development in this field, because a number of companies are coming to India, and the export market for these automobiles which are manufactured is increasing. Like it is becoming a base for export. Uh, so artificial intelligence definitely is playing a major role in these industries. Like for example, robotics. Almost 75% of the vehicle the process of manufacturing a vehicle is done by robots. So definitely, India has seen a major change in the manufacturing industry using artificial intelligence, and there is much more scope for that.
Yeah, that's super insightful coming from you, who's actually been associated with a particular industry and like going forward with it. Sure. And so this is actually just a question that's out of curiosity, but would you rather want to watch an American film or an Indian film about AI? And just in there's a situation that like there's two movies about AI. Which one would you prefer to watch?
We would prefer a regional language film because we think it's almost very much exaggerated in Hollywood movies like artificial intelligence. Uh, it is depicted. It depicts somewhat like unusual stuff in Hollywood movies.
Yeah. And that actually like beautifully leads to like the final two questions about it. And both these questions are gonna be like on a number scale. How possible do you think it is for human-like AI that we see in films and TV to be like an actual reality on a scale of 1 to 5?
Maybe I would scale it up to two, not more than that, because as I have already said, a lot of exaggeration goes on in these movies.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And also, where do you see India's role in AI with the rest of the world? And this is a scaled question too. It's like 1 to 5. Like, what do you see India's role is with
Uh,
like an enormous like
maybe
educated population that's like in their growing years?
maybe four, um,
Yeah.
because we think we have good potential if explored uh, on that particular field.
Yes, that was really insightful, like to talk to you about it, especially as someone who is from the manufacturing industry and actually is an entrepreneur in that industry. So thank you for being on.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Um, Hi everyone. Today I have Dr. Arvinda Kanadana talking to me, who's a dental surgeon who worked as a faculty member at the Dental College, Swami Devi Dayal Dental College in India. So she's gonna share her insights on AI in dentistry and overall like in the medical profession there. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
I'm really happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to start off by asking you to describe AI in your own words, as far as like just what do you think of AI and in your own words, can you like describe?
Okay. Artificial intelligence definitely is a set of computer tasks or programs that will help us to deliver a particular task in a shorter period of time. So the particular data set is given to the computer to train it to give an output of your choice of whatever you want in a particular task. So this will help us by performing tasks in a shorter interval of time. This is what I understand.
So coming to your profession and AI, how has AI technology developed and changed the field of medicine in the last like how many years you've worked in India specifically?
Okay. I have not seen applications of AI probably a decade back in India, at least in my context. But of late, since the last 5 years, it has definitely take, uh, taken great strides in the field of medicine in India. Of course, we have AI now in automated diagnosis systems and in uh, radiology field because I am an oral and microfacial radiologist. So we have AI systems trying to give an automated diagnosis. Same is the case for other clinical diagnosis also. So of late, we have seen people making specific programs for dentistry as well. So this change has been there since the past 5 to 6 years, and since we have 3D printing now, so again the use of AI into 3D printing also has been there since the last 5 years. Yeah.
And coming to like what the news and the media portrays about like AI and medicine, especially in India, they're showing a lot of positive impacts of it. And one of the main things is you like mainly to work towards the like the low doctor to patient ratio in the rural communities in India, and for the training of medical professionals, because that'll help a lot more people. Can you expand on this and perhaps suggest more benefits of AI in India's medical field?
Yeah. So as everyone knows, there is a shortage of healthcare professionals in the rural settings. So in India, at least, I mean, the specialist to patient ratio is very, very less. So in such case, states probably, if AI can introduce a program as to mass screen and then pick up individuals for specialist care who require specialist care, the burden will be much lesser. Definitely, this is one of the brightest sides of AI in Indian healthcare systems, because currently we have so many people dying of preventable causes, especially in rural India where they do not have access to advanced medical care facilities. So, picking up something early, for example, in our settings, we have oral cancer. India ranks in India, the oral cancer, people suffering from oral cancer or dying of oral cancer is about six. It's the sixth most common cancer in India, Indian settings. So trying to pick up these cancers early would definitely help to improve the survival rates of these patients. So in order to pick up these conditions early in life, if somebody has an automated process which makes it simpler, the specialist accessibility is very less. So instead of a specialist, if some system can pick these patients up and then they can get screened further for their disease, it would be definitely, it is a wonderful welcome change, definitely. So it would totally alter the statistics, healthcare statistics, if such automated systems come into play.
But like with everything in life, there's a pro and a con to it, right? And the same thing goes with AI in like a lot of senses. There's a lot of debate on TV again, and there's a lot of like people who are very respected. Like there's like very big politicians, and there's celebrities and everyone who voice their opinions on AI coming in and taking over human jobs. And that's the
Okay.
same thing even in India, right? Because especially in India, which has a very big population, a working population, that too, this could lead to a loss of loss of jobs for them. Do you see that as a big concern in the medical field as well?
Yeah. See, any new change that creeps in is actually taken by with a pinch of salt. So definitely there would be a lot of speculations regarding the loss of jobs in healthcare industry, but I would not support that statement, because till date the decision making still lies with the clinicians, especially in healthcare sectors. Nobody relies only on the machine to make a diagnosis for you and then have the treatment plan for you. Probably we are still at a stage where the clinician dictates the treatment plan, and it is probably the execution part of the treatment plan is enabled by AI, but currently the decision making still lies with the clinicians. So I don't see any, I mean, loss of jobs or loss of, uh, I mean, AI taking over human jobs. That's still, at least at this point of time, it's not still not possible.
Uh, So coming to like what the general public thinks of it, because they've actually heard both the sides of the stuff, like because everyone's connected today and like there's a lot of discussion happening. Have you run into people who have concerns about this entire thing, like patients who come to the clinic, or even the students who you worked with when you were in dental college and all of those things?
Um, Most of Indian patients still prefer doctors. They do not want to be handed over reports by machines, and they would not still go for a second opinion to a doctor, because there's something called as the emotions attached to, or the emotional concerns, or probably still people have their doubts on AI systems. They're probably not, they do not readily accept what the machine says. They would second it from a doctor. Even though there's an automated diagnosis of cancer, they would come to a clinician to confirm it once again. And definitely the clinician would provide an overall, he would consider so many other factors. See, the machines can make mistakes because they have limited set of information as of now, but the clinician has an overall picture, so the chances of missing or chances of making a mistake are lesser with a clinician. Of course, studies have shown that AI systems do pick up, they have about 85 to 92% accuracy as clinicians, but still that 8% lag is too high in, to, too costly to just give it a try. So Indian patients would definitely, till date, they would prefer human doctors rather than AI. I would suggest probably they're not scared or something, but then they would want this human touch to their condition.
That's fair. That's fair. And among experts, doctors, and other medical professionals, what is their general consciousness about the AI in the medical field? Do people
Okay.
like seem more optimistic about its growth, are more wary about it, or like,
Yeah, I probably the younger generation or the people who have just passed out their graduations are more into about AI and its applications in dentistry. They're more ready to accept these changes and adapt themselves to the latest advances. But probably the older generation is not so keen because change. People are resistant to change. They've been practicing their profession for quite some time, and now suddenly, all of a sudden, if something new is creeping in, it would be difficult for them to change. But not all. There could be exceptions to this general rule, but definitely the younger generation is more keen to adapt these technologies. That's what I feel.
yeah. And like coming to like more of a technical side of things, like do you think there's a certain AI technology that's there in the world that can be adapted for the Indian climate, especially in your field, that would really lead to a lot of like benefits and like more comfort for the patients and overall like just improvements and everything.
Okay. So yes, I would agree. Like for example, it would hasten up the process of diagnosis. Probably it'll reduce the waiting period. What used to happen earlier, because manually doing things would take a lot of time. So that and right now I would say nobody has time for anything else, even for their own selves. So probably in this era of rapidity, probably AI would definitely help us in coming to a conclusion faster. Definitely yes. Definitely yes. So it would reduce the times for everything. I mean, for example, a radiologist sitting and scanning through five. If a radiologist has to do scan the images manually, he would probably take in a day he could hardly complete 5 to 6 scans. After that, there's a burnout, because he will not be able to manually see the screen for so much of time. Whereas an AI could help him, pick up those abnormal images, and he will be able to concentrate more on that, and his work efficiency would improve. So this will benefit both the patient and the doctor.
And coming to culturally specific AI, will there need to be any modifications to like the AI scene in medicine per se in India? Like I know like there's a lot of talk about how Teslas are gonna get like a little more modified for Indian roads and stuff in the automation of like vehicles kind of. But is there something like that that's gonna happen even in the medical thing more
Yeah,
accepted by
definitely.
people?
Yeah, definitely there are certain population based requirements, and there is a set of parameters that keep changing according to population. So definitely yes, there would be uh, probably requirement for a population specific database, or for example, if a simple example, if you take for example, when we do age determination or gender determination, each parameter varies according to the race. So probably we would require specific parameters to be designed as per the population. So yes, they're race specific.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for all of those insights about like how AI could be used in the medical profession and in dentistry and sharing your insights with us, which is gonna help us a lot. I want to end off by just talking about a very like culture specific question because on my wall I have a lot of films and everyone can see that like one of the main things that I wanted to do this project was for just to get like a cultural understanding of people in various fields what they think about AI, and popular culture shapes one's thinking in my opinion. So what was the first time you saw a reference of AI in popular culture that you were like, wow, or that's scary or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Long time back when we were in school, I watched a movie called Aditya 369, which has a time machine in it. So the time machine at that time was not even dreamt of. So it would take a person either into the past or into the future based on once you set the date, you can get off into the past or into the future. So that actually was quite interesting and what do you call surprising for us because we've never heard of such things in those times. So I also wish to be, go into the future and just have a look as to what would happen in the future. I used to dream of such things this was during my school days. After that, probably of late, seeing Robo. Robo is again an Indian movie with a lot of artificial intelligence. So the way people have tried to put emotions into artificial intelligence was nicely portrayed. So these are
Yeah.
the two things which I connect to AI in films.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I just want to mention that it's really interesting how a film in the 80s actually talked about technology in a more positive sense, the Aditya 369 one, which I actually recently watched. And Robo actually did not talk about it in a positive sense, even because at the end they just place him in a museum. But, yeah.
No, see, right thing at the right moment. Right thing has to happen at the right moment for it to give the right output. So this always happens in science and technology.
Mhm.
So this is very important. If things are too advanced for your times, probably they'll be put in museums only. But science is not always bad. It teaches us
Yeah.
so many good things too. So
Yeah, I was just kidding. I was
how?
like, yeah, it's just part of the writing process for them. So, like, yeah, they would
Yeah,
tell a good story. Thank you.
yeah.
I will.
It was a pleasure interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, hey everyone. Today, joining me is my friend Jatish. Jatish is an art of living and meditation techniques. And he's organized and taught several art of living workshops in US, Canada, India, and they've been attended by people from diverse backgrounds. He's a unique combination of wisdom and humor. His breath and meditation workshops are always houseful. His service ethic inspires communities of people, and for that, he's given and been invited to a TED Talk in Tucson, Arizona. Jitish also has a master's in electrical engineering from ASU, and he's currently working with a semiconductor company designing chips. So welcome on to this, just for being on.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Sandy.
For someone who's like who lived in India for a long part of your life, do you think AI would be a good thing for a country like India, or would it like negatively impact it? Because there's no dearth of human resources in a country like India, and there's like job scarcity that's already there. And would it like just in your technologist and as someone who works for the welfare of people?
I feel I don't think so. I don't think it's a bad thing even for like a developing country, because developing countries, they face challenges like, for example, in India there are so many remote villages which don't get education.
Hmm.
There's so many remote
Hmm.
areas which are still not accessible by roads, right? So if we can somehow make this technology available to them, now the challenge there would be how to subsidize a technology like this, right? um, so I feel if we can get if we can get this technology to all these remote areas, all this remote population in developing nations like India, I feel it can make education so much easier, right? It can imagine the young children who don't have access to schools can get access to a whole classroom experience just using AR VR technology. So I don't think that there's any sort of negativity. Now, this might be very opposite from a lot of the other meditation teachers. If you might be talking to them, maybe their views are completely different than this. But my view stems from the fact that how can we practically use the technology? There is no way, honestly speaking, that in the 21st century there's no way that we're going to stop innovating. There's no way that we're going to be reducing the amount of tech that we have in our life, right? It's going to go up from here. So now the question is, how can we best use it to further the cause of humanity, to further the cause of society? So we still believe in the human values. We still believe in um, like uplifting others. So how can we use this technology to uplift others? So I find for developing nations this can be very critical, because um, we can make education accessible, we can make different skill sets accessible, because what we need in India is more practical, hands-on, skilled workers, right? Like skill development. So all of that can be done very easily through AR VR system, if it is well implemented.
Yeah, yeah, that's no, that's true. That's true. Since you actually mentioned that, like, usually your opinion could be way more different from other meditation teachers, we can go into like that aspect of it, and like, do you think it would like uh kind of like benefit, or would it be like relevant at all to that side of things at all, like as in like for meditation and spreading mindfulness, the
Yeah.
message of mindfulness, and how you can guide meditations and stuff? Would like AI ever play a part in any of that, in your opinion?
I think it's already starting to do so. Like I see there's so much technology that's out there which is trying to manipulate the brain waves, or try to measure the brain waves while you're meditating. I see so many headbands which would measure your brain activity um, while you're meditating and stuff like that, and it will calculate the data and stuff like that. I think I think that for meditation, the tech is still evolving. Like with anything, right? Like there needs to be a balance. So meditation brings us close to humanness within us, right? And I feel the ancient tradition allows us to teach that process, like by means of oral transmission. So teacher teaches and a student learns, and then they go teach others, and the whole message, the whole knowledge of meditation can spread like that. So um I feel AI, it has its positives in the sense, if a good meditation teacher, let's say, is not accessible, not available to you, you could always go on these AI platforms, find something that you resonate with, and then learn meditation that way. But at the same time, it should not come at the cost of reducing the human connection, right? Because there is a certain value to that as well. So like we were talking about, like if this pandemic wasn't there, like we would all be meeting up, and it would be so nice to meet up with our friends, with our family. The same way with, like, in the field of meditation, it's so good to be able to meet people and teach or learn, rather than like rather than
Experiences
using tech.
because of like a machine in a way.
Exactly. Exactly. So I feel, I feel like each each thing in the universe, there's that, like I said, how do you use it, right? So if you use it to make it more accessible, then it's a positive thing. But if you use it to replace the human connection, then I would say then it can lean towards the negative side. And it depends on the user. So if we can provide education in our school system on how to better use technology, I feel then we can train our younger generation on how to make benefit out of it, rather than lose themselves in, like, whatever, in the tech. So
So like for that, like this culturally sensitive AI is something I wanted to talk to you about, as in like just in like Indian literature or popular culture. It could be films, it could be like music, it can be like mythology, it can be history or anything that like or its traditions and beliefs. Do you see any instances that AI has been mentioned and like in your own like thing, did you think those things were in a more positive space or a negative space or what kind of thing?
That's a very interesting question. I know culturally, even in Indian scriptures, let's say, they would talk about technology. They
Hmm.
would do a lot of talking about technology. So in India, uh, culturally, spiritually, they were never opposed to science.
Hmm.
The ancient Indian rishis or scientists, right? They were never opposed to science. It's very different from how it is in the West, right? In the West, uh, science and so-called spiritual community, or I feel in West, the spiritual community was kind of more like a religious community.
Hmm.
They were always against each other.
Yeah.
So that's how I view it, even culturally, according to India. Like the ancient, true, authentic Indian culture, I feel would not be opposed to uh, science and scientific developments. But having said that, culture changes, right, over
Hmm.
time. And that's what we love about, like, people sharing their ideas, changing thought patterns, and the new culture develops, and the new culture develops, and new culture develops, or even though the root remains the same. So I 100% think that culturally sensitive AI needs to be a thing, wherein not necessarily per the belief system, but I think for like a certain culture and the way they use technology and the way they find it applicable, if we can cater it to application basis, I think then it can be more useful. Maybe certain people in the remote parts of India, uh, who still don't even have access to the current technology, like already existing cars, already existing tech, um, they might find it very hard to believe that there are cars out there which
Automated
can
cars.
self automated cars and automated a lot of stuff, right, that can actually happen. So so I feel like education needs to go hand in hand with um, to help a certain country adopt this technology, and at the same time, vice versa, the technology also needs to adapt to the needs of the place, time, and situation, rather than this is what it is, you gotta use it, or take it or leave it. That kind of thinking may not work. My cornerstone is all about education. We're developing all this tech at a fast pace, but I'm afraid that the education around it is not developing at a fast pace,
Hmm.
like how to use this tech
Hmm.
for the betterment. But I think eventually we'll get there, slowly and steadily. But uh,
True.
I think we're getting there in that direction.
Yeah. And I think one of the main things for educating people in the modern era would be through the process of telling stories and in a way them hearing about it, not like a traditional school education too. And One of the things I can think of is popular culture with like films and like music and like also like any form of art. So I wanted to ask you, can you think of something in the Indian side of things that was a movie or something that was related with the concept of AI or automation or tech and something like that?
Interesting. Huh. I can't think of an Indian movie, but I just remember I was reading this article somewhere, uh, a Hollywood movie based on Indian scriptures. Like,
Oh,
uh, so I was hearing about the Matrix and the Inception, and how one of the ancient, very old ancient yogic texts called Yoga Vashishta talks about it. Not the movie, but the logic behind the movie. Like, the
oh,
dream state and dreams behind the dreams behind the dreams behind the dreams. So it's very interesting that what science is catching up to now, or even what the popular culture is sharing now, is kind of embedded into the human consciousness from a long time ago with all these meditators who were talking about like dreams inside of dreams inside of dreams, um and like, so I feel there's a connection there.
yeah. Thank you so much again for being on here and like giving all like your insights about it. Thank you so much, Hitesh.
You are most welcome. It was nice talking to you, Sandy. All the best for your project, and
Hey everyone, today with us we have a prominent leader in the Indian education space, Mr. Bhaskar Sharma. He's someone who's been a faculty member for a number of years and also an expert in education technology. Thank you for being on board with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much for like being on this. And I wanted to ask you something just in general, like about what your view of technology is in general.
Yeah. Tech in general, I see in two ways, as a common man and as a professional. As a professional, being coming from teaching background or otherwise academic background, I didn't see tech being part of my career anywhere in my beginning of my career, because more of teaching in India, particularly when you come to Indian background, it's more of the human part of teaching carrying on in India. So in the beginning of my career, I don't see anything of tech around me. But yes, as a common man, we welcome tech into our lives. I could see tech in many ways, in terms of, for example, say starting with computer and going through the different versions of it, laptop, or slowly coming into mobile. We welcome tech into our life, making our life easy. So as a common man, I could see a rapid change in tech, and I could get the benefits of tech into my life. But off late, I can say that though it's starting, it was not that tech in my life, or in my life in terms of professional life. It's more of off late that tech is coming into that professional field of teaching. So it's two parts. As a common man, yes, tech is very positive, and it has been, I've been observing the changes of tech from a large variety and intensity of it. But as in terms of profession, it's very off late, very recently that tech has come into the professional life of an academics or academician.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful way of putting it out, like as in something about your professional thing and something about like how it was personally. So personally, would you say you choose the side of like you basically are comfortable with new technology or something that you aren't as comfortable with new technology?
Again, I come here two ways.
Mhm.
As a culture wise, Indian culture, when you talk about the culture and tech in India, yes, truly, as an Indian culture person, I welcome tech into my life everywhere, because it makes my life easy in many ways. Say, for example, contacting people, communicating with people, or reaching people. It has made the global a small village. And so, as a common man, yes, I do welcome it. And as in terms of profession, I see tech something like an add-on rather than a replacement of. It's more of an add-on to a faculty or an academician. Of late, this Corona or COVID, has given some answer to it, particularly to me, persons like me coming from academic field, whether tech is a replacement to an faculty or whether it is a perfect, reach available to the students, particularly nook and corner of India, because still India is a developing country. Not every student can get the reach of a good faculty. So yes, in terms of profession, there is a reach and teach there. A reach and teach has been the one thing which you can see the positive side of technology, but it couldn't replace, as of now, it couldn't replace the faculty being involved in the teaching of and reaching the students for teaching. It has been more of an add-on, and more technologies like AI and machine learning, data science, though they are very raw for a faculty member, but yes, their benefits are seen unknowingly without their names being involved into what we are using it. As of now, it is still as an add-on to a teaching faculty.
No, that's true. That's true. Since you actually mentioned AI and like human replacement, that there's a lot of discussion about that and like global news and popular culture and everything like that. And you said it's like an add-on rather than a replacement. So you already like stated your position about AI. As an educational professional yourself, would you see in India in the educational system were there any like instances of like educating the kids about AI, about like new technology, about like positives or negatives of it, because it's a powerful tool that can be used positively and negatively. Was there any instance of that or anything like that in the Indian education system that you can think of?
Yeah, Indian education system, as you are aware, it is always linked with the technology happening in the global market.
Mm-hmm.
Our education system always focused towards, for example, mainly in India, it is more of engineering or medicine, the most aspirant careers taken in India. So when it comes to engineering, it's always about what's happening in the technology side of the global market.
Mm-hmm.
If you see everywhere now in the education sector, the buzz is about AI, ML, and data science. You go to any engineering college, even if you're a parent of a kid who is studying engineering, the first question the parent asks is, does my ward has this AML data science in his syllabus? Though they don't know what is AML data science. So yes, the AML has come into the education field, and accordingly, education field is set towards the technologies developing around the world. So as of now, because it is AML data science everywhere, yes, in education sector, the buzzword is AML, and everybody opting for a career in AML now, data science. And accordingly, engineering colleges or institutions are changing. And yes, in India more of a service sector oriented country. Our economy is based more of service sector and particularly IT sector because of the population and the mindset of Indian culture and the culture of India. So yes, in education sector, yes, it has come in terms of institutions at engineering level or at undergraduate level or postgraduate level. AML has come.
But like, don't you think that there's a huge population in India, and a lot of this population might lose jobs too because of like AI in a way? If it's generalized AI, I'm talking about something. If it's a replacement, wouldn't that be like kind of like in a negative sense for a lot of human beings? Because AI is just something that we need more than we like. No, we want more than we need, right?
Every time when technology is innovated, the
Mm-hmm.
same talk goes on.
Yes.
I think 2090 or somewhat, when computer was first time coming into the market, everybody felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
But we found out a totally different scenario
Yes, more
where
job.
there is a lot of opportunities in computer field now, or IT sector, you call it as. So yes, to start with, there is a question mark whether, but I don't feel it as so, because artificial intelligence is a tool which is to be used to better your working or better your execution of tasks. I don't see it's a replacement of anything for human involvement.
Okay.
And ultimately, we have to understand that it's an approach to be developed by human beings again.
Yes.
Though it is artificial, that artificiality comes into existence only by the development of human beings involved in it. Yes, it is an artificial intelligence. The name itself suggests we have to create that intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So that intelligence is created by whom? Not by machines, again by human beings. Yes, it may replace some of the tasks, say for example like a BPO. Yes, but nowadays I am calling to some bank, I see more of that artificial ML coming, or AML coming to picture than human involvement. But at the same time, when something there is a halo, there is something in hype there. So I find opportunity in another way,
Mhm.
where there is a creation of algorithms or creation of intelligence, because the name itself says it is artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence which is created. So that creation needs human force.
Yes. No,
So
that's actually really beautifully put. Like, because it's not just that you lose jobs in a certain thing, but there's a gain somewhere else, and
exactly,
that results primarily from like people have to keep developing their skills and going into the new world that's being created by like everything that's
exactly.
going on to kind of survive this. There's some jobs that are going to be affected, but there's going to be more that are created, and it's all about finding your place in the new world in a way. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you was just perceptions of people, because you're an educationalist, you interact with a lot of students, and
Yes.
what's like an average Indian student's perception of it? Are they more positively inclined towards it? Are they like, no, I don't want anything to do with it because it is kind of like bad kind of thing, or is it mainly like, are they like actually passionate about it when they're doing it, or is it like they're doing it because it's the future? I know this is a very loaded question, and like there's a multiple different things that I'm asking, but yeah, just yeah, overall,
Yeah,
like what are their perceptions of it?
culture wise in India, it has always education or anything we do,
Hmm.
it's always linked to that finally towards your job or a career.
Hmm.
Yes, career is one we can accept, but in India it is more of linked to whatever we learn or whatever we do. It is something like towards livelihood or job, though career is a different sense of it. So yes, one good news is the Indian students are accepting it very positively, because they see a lot of opportunities in it. And very importantly, it's not something like the old technologies. Say for example, you go to old technology, C or C++, or any other Java or something like, where you have to need to learn more of the coding part of it or the syntax of it. Where here they see the artificial, it is something like they have a problem, and they need to create just an algorithm for that problem as a solution. It's not that. Luckily this artificial and machine learning has different parts of it, where you need not be technically sound of it. For example, even persons like me coming from mathematical background, statistical background, we think positively of getting into AML. I get a lot of push from my brother who is in AML, pushing me towards saying that yes, it is nothing but statistics and mathematics, and it is bringing into many subject matter expert into that picture. Everybody want to be in this AML because it's something like just a thought or algorithm or a solution from a problem,
Hmm.
unlike the other technologies where it's something more of coding and creating a program and delivering the output. This artificial intelligence welcomes any person into its arena, because it's a problem and a solution to be created. They have a problem and a solution. Now, technologizing this problem is another part of this. First, if you can get a solution of this problem, you are welcome into this arena. It can be technologized using some other language like Python or whatever it may be. So why is it even persons like me coming, as I said, many persons with good statistical knowledge or mathematical background just can dive deep into this AML, give some solutions to it, or at least an approach to it. It's not that we need to be good in sound in technology. All this makes not only students who are from engineering background, even non-tech students or non-tech professionals coming into AML, because AML is not a technology to be used something like not like a mobile technology, or it is not a field specific technology. It is present everywhere.
Hmm.
It is present everywhere. So it needs subject matter expertise of every field you are applying it. Even for example, banking professionals, you need that subject matter expertise of the banking professional, because you want to create that AML there. Even in education, even for example, even I'm selected for Amazon recently. Very simple. When I got the call, I felt why I should be an Amazon being a non-tech. That's what they want to create this AML into picture, and they want this subject matter expertise of the academician for implementing that AML into education. So it's a good positive that not only students studying in engineering are waiting for this AML to expand more. Many subject matter experts of different fields are dive deeping into this AML because AML is to be implemented or to be as an applications of in every field of our day-to-day life.
No, that's actually a really well put answer, and it answers most of my questions about like what people's perceptions are, what your perceptions are, and what someone in your industry thinks. So thank you so much for joining us again, and I really appreciate it, and it really helped over the overall research project.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey everyone, today with us we have architect Chandra, who's a practicing architect for the past 25 years is actually, and has actually been involved in some of the landmark buildings in Hyderabad. Thank you so much for being on this thing with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me.
Yeah. So I want to start off this thing just by asking you, as someone who's been in the architectural side of things for the last 25 years, so you've seen a lot of technical changes. So what, yeah, are you more for it or are you against just technology in general in your industry?
Definitely, I'm, in favor of AI. It's got, a lot of advantages, what I felt. So I'm absolutely in favor of AI.
Oh, and like, where do you see it being a part of the industry that you are in right now?
Uh, See, actually, what happens earlier, we used to draw with manually the whatever plans, elevations, and then views, everything, and then do it manually. Now that with the computerization, digitization, what we feel is that part has become very very easy. So the time what is taken, compared to earlier days is much better, and then it is optimized. So my time saves, and then with all the 3D views and all, I can visualize my buildings and massing everything, in no time. So I can quickly change decision, and the product will be much better than what I actually visualize it. So that is how I feel it is very very beneficial.
Oh, no, that's actually a really positive take to it, and I love how like you put in something that it works for in your industry.
Yeah, yes, it does.
And just in general, I read up that there are AI tools that actually show the customers like the architectural designs of their future homes, of something else, which makes it more easier for the business side of architecture as well.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
something that like you've come across before?
See, basically, it is all about, when we talk about smart homes, and then, how we design smart homes, like the way AC gets operated, while we just start from the office, and then, how do we switch on the geysers. So that is actually picking up now in, Hyderabad.
Mhm.
So, that is how everybody is actually, getting attracted towards such homes.
Oh, yeah.
So, we feel, that is actually, a smart home is, is much better, and then, makes the life, very, very simpler. So, you know,
No, that's actually a really like cool concept because even I didn't know about it right till you actually told me about it. So that's
oh,
really
really? Okay, okay.
yeah. I don't
Mm,
think I've like ever heard of it. Like probably seen it, but like never heard of it kind of thing.
okay, okay, okay. So it is there, like, we can always switch on, everything, all these things can be monitored. And then CC cameras, and earlier there was nothing like that. And then, once we leave the house, then, what is happening at home, no one knows. So that safety and security matters, and, everything, plays a major role. So I feel, it's all because of AI. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I think so. Even I'm basically trying to get like a consciousness about it, like as you
Okay. Okay.
like no, that's actually really cool. I wanted to know about like since you've been in it for so long, was there like a big transition phase that like there was a lot of roadblocks, like architectural leaders like yourself now, when it was coming up, when they're in their when they're older per se, like some of them like accept stuff on a more like positive scale of things, but some people just feel a little apprehensive about it. So is
Yes.
that something
Yeah.
that you had to deal with some people that when it was coming in, maybe like 10 years or so earlier than today, was that something that you saw just among your peers and anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. I did not experience that very fortunately, but I really could see how others would actually take it. Like the person who can actually, do it manual drawings very, faster way. But when the computers are into picture, and then when everything is moving so fast, then that insecurity, I could sense it in the other person. So
Mm-hmm.
just definitely the transition, what I could see when I started sort of my career, and then now where I am standing, there's a huge gap. So there is a lot of development, and I'm happy that I'm part of it. And then I also grew, as the technology grew. So it really helps, but there are few people who's really reluctant, for that. But ultimately, now that everybody is going in that way, so people are actually moving towards that.
Yeah, completely feel that. And to be honest, even I was reluctant about it. I was like, I don't want
Oh,
anything to do with tech, and I don't want anything to do with anything because I thought it would be like people would lose their physical form of communication and all of that stuff. So,
oh, really?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So like earlier you talked about like people who actually could do these tasks really well and they feel insecure about it. So I have to like bring up this concept because everyone talks about AI and like it taking up human jobs and it being a thing, right? For someone who actually sees that on a ground reality basis,
Yeah.
do people actually lose a lot of jobs, or are more jobs created because of this new thing, because of new opportunities that are created, or like just like what do you think about that concept of stuff?
See, what I felt was, see, there is a development in technology, but as long as you don't train the people, then definitely it lags behind. They lag behind, and as they do not know the software and then those skills to actually operate the software, that insecurity would automatically come in, right? So as long as there are training needs to actually, as per the technology development, you give the training also to the people so that they also move along with the software. So that is how it helps. Otherwise, you make the technology, and there is no people to actually operate it. There's no point. So those training needs are very, very important. And then the time is also very important, that they should get used to that. Then life becomes easy, isn't it?
Yes, yes. No, that's true. That's true. And it's just about like in the entire thing, people being trained to it,
Yeah,
they get like
yeah,
adapt to it. It becomes a part of their life. Like computers became a
exactly.
part of our life, or like
Yeah.
cell phones became a part of our life.
Yeah, yeah. Like here, what happens in majority of the buildings? What happens is, all sensor-based lights, and then sensor-based, washing basins, everything. As long as there is no one to properly monitor that, right? The technology is not properly used, then there's no point in having a smart building or anything like that, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I really like the concept of how you put it, as in like it actually helps more people than it does more harm with the amount of technology we have. And like nothing's going overboard like they show it in like our like Terminators or something. There's no generalized AI where machines are coming over and taking over humanity. So as long as that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, we're chilling. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other like are there any other thoughts that you have that like you see people around you talking, especially in a different culture, even like the different customers you talk to or people, are they more like comfortable with designs and also just dealing with smart homes, and is there a transition in like the customer base, like something like that, or
Mm, I didn't get your point
Oh
exactly.
yeah, like as in like are the customers more accepting of like smart homes and
Yeah,
having like sensors and stuff like that
yes,
more than just like regular stuff,
they
or are they
are.
more like they're being
Yeah.
proctored by like the other things?
Yeah, yeah, they are. They are. That's what I'm telling you. As long as there is proper manuals and then proper training,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is actually, what I felt AI means making life simpler,
Mm-hmm.
you know, rather than a complicated thing also is simplified with that, isn't it? Am I right? So definitely, when you talk about elder people, they cannot take it immediately. But if you explain them, in very simple language,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it should not be an issue. And then, especially the elder generation, they're more open to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it should not be a challenge. And then, whenever I see, majority of the people are like, they are welcoming such kind of changes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a really positive take to it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this like amazing information with us, and thank you again.
thank you, Sandilya, and I all the best.
The research that we've done on how Indian people view AI has yielded many useful results. We realized that human interaction is the most important component, and even if things will be automated, there should be still some human presence or connection. In addition, we learned that one of the greatest problems that AI technologies will have to face is a lack of awareness, which needs to be addressed within the education system and through pop culture. For future research, we would like to dive deeper into different parts of India and see the differences or similarities within the country itself. India has come a long way since its independence from Britain in 1947, and Sandy and I are both excited to see how AI technology transforms the economic and social landscape of India.
I'm really glad to have gotten the opportunity to work with Khyati and interview so many industry leaders and get their perspectives on AI in India and how it's different from the West. I'm now more open to working on AI. My conclusion after these discussions was that AI is extremely powerful, and like Voltaire had said, with great power comes great responsibility.